Hello world, I'm Sane Dev Guy. As I am embarking on my second game engine for this minigame, I was thinking of the other times that I had done things two or more times. For example, this game was the first time I had tried animating anything in 3D. And there's a lot of information on animation in 3D out on the web of how to do it best. And it's almost overwhelming. There's like more information that I could possibly absorb without trying it. So I simply jumped in. I decided to make the bear play the guitar. That was going to be my first animation because it was just strumming the guitar. And so I went through the process that all the videos talked about, the rigging, the posing, the animation. And as I got stuck, I would have questions and look for the answers to the questions and get better and learn as I go of the things that were pertinent towards my goal, what I was trying to accomplish. And when I got to the end and found the right questions to ask that were actually important to this particular animation, I realized that all the way through I had been listening to the wrong things and asking the wrong questions and just done it in a way that didn't work with my goal animation. So I ended up throwing it all out and starting over. And that sounds bad because I had given a considerable amount of effort in order to achieve what I had done. But the truth is, most of that effort was in the learning, not the actual doing. So the second time, not only did it go much faster, it ended up much better. And I'm not going to say it's perfect yet. There's another step to go at least, probably more than one, but it's much better than it was. And when I tried to do my second animation, the walking animation, I found it much easier to accomplish that in a lot less time. Another example. When I first started this game on stream, I wanted to make the visual art first because I wanted to have something to look at. And I had worked with Blender before in trying tutorials and making a few of my own things just to make sure I understood it, but it had been a while. So when I first started again, I started with simple things like the tree. It's a sphere and a cylinder, it's two shapes with two different colors, the bark and the leaves. I worked from simple to hard, but I realized I lost a lot of it. I wasn't sure how to do it. And as I learned, as I went through the simple to the hard and ended up with the bear, I learned things enough that when I went back to do the original object, look at the original objects again and fix them, some of them I just threw out and started over because they were just not right at all. And there was nothing really to save. And the work that would invest that I was having to redo was so little of the work that actually needed to be done. So that's another case where I did a few of these objects twice. But I'm very happy I did that. A third time that I did things twice, when I was working on the user interface, I've used a lot of user interfaces over my 35 years of programming, and they all have slightly different ways they do things. And so I had thought that I understood how I was going to position the buttons and the conversation below the bear's feet and above their heads. But as I started to learn how Godot did the user interface, I realized that my method, the method I guessed at, was just not going to work out. And as I learned how the process worked, I ended up a completely different method. So I ended up doing kind of everything twice. Kind of threw one out, started the other one, and it worked out pretty well. And it's not perfect yet. I know what I want to change, but I also think I know how to make those changes. So that was the third example of trying different things, and the first one didn't work. Here's the fourth example. I built all of these things kind of haphazardly, kind of in some files and in some other files. And I realized when I was starting to import my visual art into the game, I really needed two things. I need the avatar, the bear that the user controls, and the walking animation to do that. And then in a separate file, I needed basically everything else, because all of it was in relationship to each other. So I would have this same bear. I didn't want to make a copy of the bear, because if I wanted to change something about the bear, I didn't want to have to change it in 2 places. So I went and did some research and looked up the structures, possible structures to use, and I completely restructured which objects were in which files, with which textures, which colors, and I built a structure of files that is much more logical, makes much more sense, and really helps me make changes that I need to make, add new things into the game without things getting confusing and muddy. So that'd be a 4th example of how I redid something twice, the file structure of all the visual art. And of course, the 5th example is that I'm going to put this in multiple game engines. It sounds like a lot of work. At this point, it isn't. And the reason it isn't is because almost all of the work is done outside the game engine. I have all my sound outside the game engine. I have all my layouts, all my animations are all outside the game engine. So there's just a little code in the game engine, besides importing everything, that really controls the bear and that moves the bear around. There's some user interface stuff. So I don't think it's going to be as bad at this point as it could be had I continued on, made more of the game. But I think I will learn a lot. Now, one difference about this last one is I know when I do things twice and I have something that works, that it's a little frustrating trying to get it to work again in a different game engine. I know how I did it the first time. Isn't that enough? But in order to do this, I'm going to compare game engines. I'm going to have to do it as many game engines as I have, so probably 3 times. I know that frustration is going to come up, and so I'm just going to deal with it. All the other times when I did the second time, I knew that it was going to be better. This one, not so sure. But that's just how you make decisions. I'd rather not just guess at the game engines. It's a very important decision to make. So I'd rather put the time into, at this point, doing things 3 times, knowing that most of the stuff really isn't done 3 times. Most of it's outside. And that's what I have. Stay sane, everyone.